Zhao Lusi's car accident again? The star's halo is too dazzling, and the Tibetan charity has become a large-scale car accident scene when a Tibetan girl asked, "So actors don't need to be that good?" The illusion of stardom was finally shattered. When a Tibetan girl innocently asked, "So actors don't need to be that good?" the glamour of stardom, propped up by a reported 2.08 million yuan daily salary, finally began to crumble in the public eye. Her words pierced the glossy illusion the entertainment industry has long cultivated, exposing a stark contrast between celebrity privilege and the realities of ordinary lives. On one side stands the actor, waking leisurely at 10 a.m. on the plateau, surrounded by a crew ready to serve. On the other, a local Tibetan villager, up at 5 a.m. milking cows in the biting cold. The so-called mutual healing between stars and locals, once packaged as a heartwarming narrative, now rings hollow. It is not an apology statement that the public craves, but genuine reflection, and more importantly, a dismantling of the entitlement mindset that still plagues the industry. Audiences are growing weary of empty gestures and polished PR. What they seek are stars who embody humility, who sit on dusty roads sharing boxed meals with background actors, not those who treat every scene as a photo opportunity. In the end, it's not the number of followers, designer wardrobes, or inflated salaries that leave a lasting mark. It's the ones who know how to kneel down, meet people eye to eye, and act not just for the camera, but for the people. Zhao Lusi's recent variety show controversy becomes a wake-up call for the entire entertainment industry. Zhao Lusi's recent misstep on a variety show has quickly spiraled into one of the most talked about controversies in Chinese entertainment, offering more than just gossip fodder, but a timely and eye-opening lesson for the entire industry. What began as light-hearted content took a sharp turn when a Tibetan girl's candid remark, "So actors don't need to be that good," punctured the carefully curated image of celebrity excellence. Against the backdrop of Zhao Lusi's casual attitude and seemingly detached demeanor, the public was forced to confront a painful contrast. While some stars rise at 10 to film under the pampering of a production crew, locals in the same setting rise at 5 to milk cows and make a living. The backlash was swift, and not just directed at Zhao herself. It laid bare a systemic issue, an unspoken arrogance that permeates parts of the industry, where fame often substitutes for effort, and where carefully packaged healing narratives feel performative rather than sincere. Zhao Lusi's incident has inadvertently become a mirror held up to the entire entertainment world. It's a reminder that audiences today are no longer easily swayed by PR spin or empty apologies. They crave authenticity, humility, and a willingness to break down the walls of privilege. In that sense, this controversy, while uncomfortable, is constructive. It's not just a personal setback, it's a powerful moment of collective reflection for an industry in need of recalibration. This once beloved post-95 rising star, long held in the palms of adoring fans, has experienced a roller coaster of public opinion in just 3 short months, a dramatic fall from grace that prompts a deeper question. How many 2.08 million yuan paydays now separate celebrities from the lives of ordinary people? The story begins in the spring of this year. Zhao Lusi, known for her girl-next-door charm and light-hearted screen presence, was once seen as a breath of fresh air in a competitive industry. But as cameras followed her into more down-to-earth variety shows, cracks began to appear in the picture-perfect image. What was meant to showcase warmth and relatability instead exposed a widening gulf between the performative kindness of stardom and the lived reality of rural communities. In a moment that went viral, a Tibetan girl's genuine curiosity, "So actors don't need to be that good," became the lightning rod for a nationwide conversation. While some defended Zhao's intentions, others saw it as the final straw, a symbol of how disconnected certain celebrities have become, cushioned by astronomical earnings and an ecosystem designed to shield them from criticism. What followed was a sharp decline in public favor, despite apology statements and damage control. The incident proved that today's audiences are increasingly critical and discerning. They don't want curated vulnerability, they want respect, empathy, and an authentic connection to the people beyond the lens. As the dust settles, Zhao Lusi's fall from the pedestal serves as both a cautionary tale and a case study. In an age where fame is fleeting and filters fade fast, only those who can walk with humility, regardless of the spotlight, will truly earn the lasting respect of the public. At the time, Zhao Lusi had stepped away from the spotlight due to health concerns, and the internet responded with an unexpected wave of sympathy. The same netizens who had once mocked her for her lack of cultural literacy and off-the-cuff remarks now seemed to undergo a collective change of heart. Comment sections that had previously been flooded with sarcasm and criticism were suddenly filled with warm, encouraging messages like, "Your health comes first, and take your time, we'll wait." This collective wave of forgiveness and empathy lasted nearly 2 months, a rare moment of calm in the often turbulent world of online celebrity discourse. For a brief period, it seemed that the public was ready to give Zhao a clean slate, chalking past missteps up to youth, inexperience, or the immense pressure of fame. But the tones shifted dramatically when she made her high-profile return with the variety show Tiny Courage. Rather than easing back into the public eye with humility, Zhao's reappearance felt overly polished and calculated. The show, designed to depict emotional healing and grassroots connection, instead came across to many as tone-deaf and superficial, especially in a now infamous moment when a young Tibetan girl innocently questioned the very value of stardom. That brief window of public leniency closed just as quickly as it had opened. What was once read as vulnerability now looked like strategic vulnerability, and goodwill gave way once again to scrutiny. Her comeback wasn't met with applause, it was met with uncomfortable questions and a reckoning she may not have anticipated. This variety show, marketed under the lofty banner of healing and public welfare, promised an inspiring blend of empathy and empowerment. A popular young actress venturing deep into Tibet, using her personal battle with illness to uplift children in remote mountain areas. The promotional campaign was nothing short of grandiose, highlighting compassion, resilience, and emotional depth. But the illusion shattered with the very first episode. What unfolded on screen was not a heartfelt journey of mutual understanding, but rather a glaring performance of detachment. Zhao Lusi, meant to embody strength and inspiration, instead gave a textbook display of tone-deaf privilege, what netizens quickly likened to the infamous "let them eat cake" mentality. In one scene, children were shown trekking treacherous cliffside paths just to get to school, an everyday ordeal fraught with danger. But instead of a moment of genuine reflection, Zhao responded with a breezy "that's so cool," a single sentence, light as air, yet heavy with implication. Viewers across the country were left stunned. Online, the response was swift and unforgiving. "Cool, how would those bruised, exhausted children, who risk injury for education, feel hearing their struggle reduced to a novelty?" In that instant, the carefully crafted narrative unraveled. The show no longer looked like a meaningful bridge between worlds, but a polished display of performative empathy. And Zhao Lusi, instead of being seen as a beacon of healing, became a symbol of just how wide the gap still is between celebrity storytelling and real-world hardship. The most bewildering moment, however, came during the segment where Zhao Lusi visited a local Tibetan household while the villagers bustled around, lighting the fire, cooking, and preparing the meal. The actress sat comfortably at the head of the table, like a visiting official awaiting a banquet rather than a guest sharing in the labor. The image was jarring. Instead of blending in, lending a hand, or even showing a hint of unease, Zhao appeared completely detached, as if she were there to inspect rather than experience. What was meant to be an intimate cultural exchange ended up feeling more like a staged photo op. In that moment, the dynamic between host and guest felt glaringly unbalanced, reinforcing a narrative of hierarchy rather than humility. The camera captured not the warmth of grassroots connection, but the awkwardness of a star too used to being served, and too unaware of how that would look in a setting meant to showcase equality and empathy. This scene became yet another example of the show's failure to grasp its own premise. Audiences weren't expecting perfection, but they were hoping for sincerity, a willingness to step down from the pedestal and engage with locals not as a celebrity, but as a fellow human being. Instead, what they saw was a stark reminder of how fame, if unchecked, can blind even the well-intentioned to the very people they claim to uplift. When the meal was finally served, the discomfort only deepened before the hosts had even lifted their chopsticks. Zhao Lusi was already reaching across the table, searching for vinegar to adjust the flavor to her liking. It wasn't just a breach of dining etiquette, it was a subtle, yet telling display of self-centeredness that clashed sharply with the humility the show claimed to promote after the meal. Instead of complimenting the hosts on their cooking, a simple gesture of gratitude in any cultural context, Zhao merely patted her mouth and chirped, "I just love eating this." Her repeated emphasis on her own preferences, rather than acknowledging the effort and warmth of the villagers, felt tone-deaf at best and entitled at worst. This unconscious display of superiority didn't require dramatic missteps, it was the accumulation of small, careless actions that spoke volumes. And for viewers watching at home, the second-hand embarrassment was palpable. Instead of forging bonds or showcasing cultural appreciation, Zhao's behavior unintentionally highlighted the very divide the show claimed to bridge. It was a textbook case of good intentions undone by a lack of awareness. In a program built on the promise of empathy, every moment that betrayed detachment, no matter how minor, rang louder than any scripted line. What should have been a celebration of human connection became an awkward reminder of how far celebrity culture still has to go in learning the basics of respect and humility. What truly crossed the line for many viewers, however, was Zhao Lusi's choice of confidence sitting across from Tibetan villagers, whose annual income likely doesn't match her single-day appearance fee. Zhao launched into a heartfelt monologue about the pressures of being a celebrity and the pain of not being understood by her parents. As the camera panned to the locals' faces, their blank, slightly bewildered expressions told a story no script could capture. It was a surreal, almost theatrical moment of emotional dissonance, one that felt more like a scene from a satirical drama than a real-life conversation. Here were people whose daily lives involved physical labor, geographic isolation, and generational hardship. And in front of them sat a star, cloaked in designer gear, pouring out grievances about the burdens of fame. The disconnect was so stark it became uncomfortable to watch. This wasn't vulnerability, it was misplaced vulnerability. There's a time and place for stars to speak about their struggles, but doing so in front of people who have spent their lives climbing cliffs for an education and surviving on subsistence farming felt tone-deaf. Even indulgent in trying to open up, Zhao inadvertently highlighted her own blind spots. The show's promise of emotional healing turned into a one-sided therapy session, where the listener could neither relate nor respond. And in that painfully awkward silence, the audience saw the real cost of an industry that still hasn't learned how to listen before it speaks. One netizen put it best with biting precision, "This is like Jack Ma complaining to minimum wage workers about how hard it is to make money. You can't listen without clenching your fists." That single line captured the collective frustration perfectly. What was billed as a heartwarming narrative of mutual healing turned out to be a tone-deaf script that collapsed under the weight of real-life hardship. The show's premise had potential, a celebrity stepping outside the spotlight, engaging with underprivileged communities, and finding common ground through shared emotional experiences. But in execution, it revealed just how ill-prepared the production team was to confront the raw truths of rural life. The glossy lens of entertainment simply couldn't contain the gravity of lived struggle. Instead of healing, the result was disillusionment. Instead of empathy, viewers witnessed a performance. The scripted warmth disintegrated when faced with the silent, stoic faces of villagers who couldn't relate to monologues about stardom, stress, and misunderstood dreams. In trying to tell a story of mutual understanding, the show unintentionally spotlighted the very hierarchy it aimed to dissolve. And in doing so, it sparked a broader reckoning, not just with Zhao Lusi's public image, but with the entertainment industry's recurring failure to grasp that real connection begins not with talking, but with listening. The kid who was initially excited about chasing stars suddenly asked after a few days of getting along, "It turns out that being an actor doesn't need to be very good." This innocent question instantly became a hot search. The audience was shocked to realize that under the aura of stars, we have become accustomed to their ignorance of common sense. Zhao Lusi said 60th anniversary is 40th anniversary at the event of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and France. Bailu couldn't tell the difference between a refrigerator and a cupboard. Wang Zilwen asked the staff to kneel down to put on shoes. If these absurd things happened to ordinary people, they would have been scolded to death, but when it happened to stars, they could always use work pressure as an excuse. The reason why this car rollover incident caused such a strong backlash from public opinion is actually the general outbreak of the public's long-standing resentment against the privileges of stars. The audience can accept the immature acting skills of actors, but cannot tolerate their ignorance as cuteness. They can understand that stars work hard, but they can stand them making a fortune every day and still selling misery. As netizens said, when we ordinary people are struggling for our livelihoods, there is no team to help us write apology statements. What is more worthy of reflection is the operating model of the entire industry. Zhao Lusi's team obviously regarded illness recovery positive energy comeback as a universal script, but they did not expect that netizens now watch variety shows with an anti-show filter. From posing in Hope Primary School to dancing on the front line of flood control, the operation of celebrities using public welfare as a tool for whitewashing has long been seen through. The problems exposed by this trip to Tibet are just the tip of the iceberg. This storm has sounded a wake-up call for all artists. The audience's eyes are getting more and more poisonous, and the people-friendly personality packaged by marketing cannot withstand scrutiny in real-life scenes. Instead of trying hard to design down-to-earth plots, it is better to learn to see the world from the perspective of ordinary people. After all, true empathy does not need a script. Just like Andy Lau eating lunchboxes with extras on the set, this kind of natural equality is the most touching. At present, Zhao Lusi's team is doing emergency public relations, but the old routine of deleting posts and controlling comments may not work. What the audience wants is not an apology statement from the studio, but to see the real changes of the artists. In the final analysis, what people dislike is not a certain star, but the increasingly privileged mentality of the entire entertainment industry. When a daily salary of 2.08 million yuan raises a celestial dragon who is out of touch with the world, no matter how exquisite the makeup is, it cannot cover the arrogance in the eyes. The wind blowing from the Tibetan area this time not only lifted the hypocritical veil of variety show scripts, but also woke up the practitioners immersed in the halo of stars. The truth that water can carry a boat but can also overturn it seems to have been forgotten for too long in the entertainment industry where traffic is paramount. The lesson of Zhao Lusi tells us, the audience may temporarily pay for the carefully designed personality, but in the end, those who remain in people's hearts are always those actors who truly respect life.